Do you have a first musical memory, something that made an impact on you?
I've got a handful, to be honest. One of my earliest memories is listening to Elvis with my grandmother, and just listening to not only his early recordings, but a lot of the stuff like he did in the '70s, the '60s and '70s, and just loving the songs, you know, and just really getting into the melodies and everything. So that's one of my first musical memories, and then after that, it was just, you know, like listening to my mom's stuff, and then, you know, babysitter stuff. Like, I mean, there was a whole journey, but I think it started with Elvis.
What was it about Elvis that attracted you?
I loved his voice, you know, and I loved the way that he could sing. It felt like he could sing anything, you know, like he'd sing the slower, more meaningful passages, and he could sing the rock stuff, and then the rockabilly stuff, and then the gospel stuff. It just seemed like he had no limits to what he could do, and he could put a jaggedness, a roughness in his voice when he wanted to, but then smooth it out when he needed to, you know, make it a little creamier. So I think that's one of the reasons that his music to this day still, you know, stands, and it feels so alive.
And you mentioned the music your mother played.
Yeah.
Was music a big thing in your household?
And it wasn't huge, but it was definitely around. You know, my mom collected a lot of 45s and 78s. So, you know, I grew up around vinyl, and you know, I listened to everything from, my mom listened to everything from Motown to disco. You know, it was very, very strange. So I kind of grew up listening to that stuff, and I think that kind of, you know, instilled in me an inherent rhythm, but then also like a good vibe for different types of melody, you know. And yeah, it was really, really cool.
At what point then did you think, I want to make music myself?
You know, I started really kind of getting interested when I was about 13. That's when I started teaching myself how to play guitar, and I knew that I liked to write. You know, I like to write lyrics and whatnot, but I didn't realize they were lyrics at the time. So I just kind of started, you know, writing poems and stuff, and I realized that, you know, when I read it back, I could hear a melody in my head. So I just kind of sat and taught myself chords and taught myself how to play, and then I realized that I could pick up and learn songs on the radio just by ear, you know, because I've always learned how to play by ear. And that kind of got me, you know, more into, you know, learning how to play guitar better so I could write my own songs.
These poems, do you know what compelled you to write them?
No, it was something I enjoyed, you know. I just loved the freedom to express, you know. Like and growing up the way I did, I needed an outlet, you know. I needed an outlet to kind of, you know, tap into how I felt and try to, you know, keep myself from going insane, to be honestly. So, you know, just the fact that I kind of had that talent, you know, I'm pretty happy that I did, to be honest, because it kept me from losing my mind and hurting myself in more ways than one.
And so when music came around, that was a real blessing.
Yeah, definitely. I was very fortunate to discover that I had that talent, you know, because I mean, at the time I didn't realize I was good at anything. You know, when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher. So when I figured out that I wasn't really built for that, you know, luckily I had music that I could kind of embrace it, you know.
And when in this process did the more heavier music come into play?
I started listening to thrash metal when I was in junior high. So, you know, obviously Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Testament, Slayer, old Exodus. Like, you know, I really got into it, and you know, that felt like my music. You know, like that was my music. Like everything before had been somebody else's music, and then thrash really felt like my music, you know, like everything from, you know, DRI to, you know, Death Angel. It was just, you know, that's the stuff that I loved to listen to, you know, and it just touched something in me, you know, especially like I said before, you know, growing up the way I did. I needed something like that felt like it was my voice, you know, and you know, that led me to like so many different other things like hardcore and old school punk and stuff like that.
But these heavier elements, those were an outlet for you.
Yeah, yeah. It didn't, you know, show itself in my writing right away. It was just the music that I loved to listen to, you know, and the stuff that I wrote was much more acoustic based, or it was much more like 70s punk, like, you know, pretty fast but still very melodic. You know, it wasn't until much later when I felt more confident playing guitar that I started writing heavier stuff and heavier and heavier and heavier, and that's when I got to the point where, you know, I needed something to kind of, you know, channel that aggression.
Was Stone Sour the first real band you had been in?
It was the first real band that I had started, yeah, and really continued with until obviously I joined Slipknot. Yeah, it was the first time that I felt that I was with strong enough people that I wanted to write music, play shows, you know, make an album, like, and really and feel comfortable enough and strong enough that I could, you know, play my songs for other people. You know, before that, it was just, you know, kind of hit and runs with cover bands and stuff like that. You know, but with Stone Sour, there was just something special where I felt like, you know, this is where I'll write material and we'll perform it live. You know, and it'll you know, that's kind of how I learned to do what I do.
Do you remember the first song you were proud of?
You know, just the fact that I was, you know, writing music, I was pretty proud of that. You know, there was a song that I wrote for an ex-girlfriend called, it was called Call My Name, and it was very sappy. Very love songy, you know. It was the first song that I ever really recorded on my own, you know. It was just me and an acoustic guitar, and I was so proud of it that my grandma still to this day has a copy of it that she listens to. Yeah, and
have you heard it recently?
No, God, you know, if I heard, I'd probably sound like I was 12, man, and I was like, you know, I was 17 when I recorded it, you know, and that's when I started kind of learning my way around a studio, and you know, learning how to kind of go back and make sure that the take is the one that you want, and you know, putting harmonies and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty cool, you know.
But it was even before Stone Sour had finished the first album that Slipknot kind of came calling. So what attracted you to Slipknot then? You
know, I was at the very first Slipknot show when they performed as Slipknot, because before that they had done a show under a different name. And I think it was called Meld, and they didn't have masks or anything like that, and it was totally different music. But then when they kind of stopped and regrouped and became Slipknot, I was at the very first show, and I can remember just being mesmerized, man. I mean, it was so, the intensity was so palpable, and musically it was kind of all over the map, but it was so awesome, and it felt so good that I can remember just sitting there going, holy shit, this is amazing, you know? And I'd never felt this before in my life, but something in my head said, I'm gonna sing for this band someday. And lo and behold, about a year later, they asked me to join, and, you know, rest is history.